Nick was renting out his Foundation Series Cybertruck. 2 hours into the rental, he received the dreaded phone call. His Cybertruck had been totaled after being rear-ended by a box truck. Let's take a look at the Teslacam footage and find out exactly what happened. Nick's renter had slowed down for an SUV making a right turn, but the driver of the box truck behind him wasn't paying attention and didn't notice until it was too late. Incredibly, nobody was hurt in this brutal collision. When police responded, the officers were amazed at how little the Cybertruck had moved after the impact. Instead of getting sent flying, the rear of the Cybertruck had crumpled like an accordion, perfectly protecting the driver by safely absorbing the energy of the collision. If anyone still thinks the Cybertruck doesn't have crumple zones, this video ought to prove it once and for all. The Cybertruck's battery fuses blew, cutting power from the main battery pack to prevent any electrocutions. After the estimated repair cost exceeded $60,000, the pickup truck was totaled. Nick pointed out that if the box truck had been equipped with advanced safety features like his Cybertruck was, this expensive mistake might have been avoided. Crashing Cybertrucks, insurance fraudsters, and a Grand Theft Auto ended by a Tesla. All of this and more is coming up on today's episode of
Wham Baam, Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.
As Arseni stopped at a red light in Norristown, Pennsylvania, he suddenly heard an engine roaring and tires screaming. The driver of a Lexus had peeled out of street-side parking before running a red light and getting T-boned. The out-of-control car smashed into Arseni's stationary Tesla hard enough to spin it around 180 degrees. If you thought that was shocking, keep watching because here's where the story really gets interesting. The driver of the Lexus jumped out wearing a mask before dropping something that looked like a gun, then fled on foot after picking it back up. When police arrived, they informed Arseni that the Lexus was stolen, and that night it had been involved in some less than legal activities. Amazingly, no people were injured in this 3-vehicle collision, but the same can't be said for the vehicles involved. All 3 were totaled in the wreck. After Arseni filed an insurance claim, he found out that the combined damage estimate for all 3 vehicles was just shy of $100,000. His Tesla accounted for $36,000 of that, which is why the insurance company chose to total it. This emitter was driving his Model 3 across an intersection in San Marcos, California, when a pickup cut across all lanes before cutting him off. Our submitter told us he didn't react at all, no honking, no gestures, nothing, before what happened next. You all know we're great lip readers here at Wham Baam, and it's clear to us this guy is saying he needs to reach the left turn lanes. Even if that's true, it doesn't give him the right to cut off other drivers who have the right-of-way. In addition to that, crossing these solid white lines is also dubious. Comment below if you can tell us if this is legal in California. Jonathan was driving his Model Y in Seattle when he watched a pickup driver run a red light and collide with a Kia. Thanks to a recent over-the-air update, Jonathan's Tesla records the footage from the B-pillar cameras, and one of them captured the pickup driver fleeing the scene, leaving their belongings scattered all over the road. Julian was cruising down a highway with autopilot engaged in his Model Y one evening, when he suddenly watched a box truck strike an overpass. Debris from the truck and overpass scattered all over the road, and Julian wasn't able to avoid running over the debris. He told us autopilot did a great job of slowing down after the truck hit the overpass, clearly noticing something had gone wrong. The driver of the box truck pulled over and stopped, but Julian continued. Once he got home and realized some of the debris had left his Tesla damaged, he made an insurance claim. Jason was headed home and getting ready to merge onto a highway behind a Mercedes SUV. He noticed the SUV was covered in Bernie Sanders stickers, which he found interesting because they're in Canada, and Bernie Sanders is an American politician. Something else caught his eye though. The green N decal on the SUV indicates the driver has had their license to drive for less than 2 years. Jason was surprised that a seemingly younger driver would be so supportive of such an elderly politician. As both drivers began heading down the highway on-ramp, liquid suddenly sprayed toward Jason's Tesla from the back of the Mercedes. Before Jason figured out it was just washer fluid, his Tesla had been hit by the squirt attack. Jason still doesn't know if this was some kind of intentional act or if the SUV has some kind of mechanical issue. For all he knows, the driver might have been trying to mess with him just because he drives a Tesla. After Susan was the victim of an insurance fraud attempt, she called the police while continuing to drive. Let's hear what an officer had to say about it after Susan showed him her Teslacam footage.
You came and sat on your car? What the did you do that for?
Steve uses an aftermarket dashcam in his 2013 Model S, since it was made before the Teslacam feature existed. That's a good idea, Steve. He'd left his Tesla parked on the street while getting his vintage motorhome ready for a camping trip in his driveway, when he noticed another car across the street with its passenger door open. It slowly ran over some bushes before bumping into a fire hydrant. When he realized the car was empty, Steve ran and jumped into it, applying the brakes before it could run into anything else. Evidently, a couple had been arguing when the husband left the passenger seat before his wife chased after him on foot, forgetting to shift the car into park. Eventually, both of them returned to their car and they left. We have to imagine that must have been one frosty ride home. Regardless, Steve did a great job preventing any more serious damage, and that makes him this week's real MVP. A Wham Baam hat is headed his way. John was headed out on a date when he watched a collision occur in the oncoming lanes. John told us he saw the pickup spinning and debris flying, but he didn't know who was at fault until later when he reviewed his Teslacam footage. After watching the video, he thinks it's clear that the driver of the pickup truck was at fault. Tell us if you agree in the comments. John told us he didn't stop as he was already late for his date. Dave and Kathy were on their way home from a store when they encountered a driver whose vehicle's horsepower outstripped their own skill. The out-of-control car spun around to face them before the driver sped off down the same side street they'd come flying out of. The driver clearly hadn't been paying attention to traffic, even as Kathy laid on the horn for several seconds. Cory had left his Tesla parked in a parking garage in Santa Monica, California, when he suddenly got a notification on his phone that the alarm had been triggered. When Cory returned, he found a large dent in his car along with this footage. Cory isn't sure if this was intentional or if this guy is just a really terrible driver. The driver of a Mercedes backed straight out of a parking space before shifting into drive and smashing into the back of Cory's Tesla. The guy then backed up again before taking off. Cory immediately contacted the police. Even though he sent them all of this footage, including video of the guy getting into the car, they told him there was nothing they could do. Cory contacted the garage operator and they said they wouldn't do anything either. That makes us Cory's last resort in his efforts to identify this driver. If you recognize him or his vehicle, contact us with the information and we'll pass it along. If Cory can't figure out who he is, he'll have to pay his $1,000 insurance deductible to get the damage fixed. As Michael pulled into a parking spot, a lady in her car gave him a strange look. He had a strange feeling in his gut, but he chose to ignore it at the time. His Sentry mode footage reveals that she waited until Michael had entered a store before she baptized his Tesla. When he came back, he found brown liquid all over the driver's door and front of his Tesla, and he immediately recognized it as a childish act of vandalism. When he played back the footage, he wasn't surprised at all to find out who was responsible after she'd given him such a weird look when he arrived. Thankfully, no permanent damage was done, and he was able to clean up the mess after arriving home. He told us he'll gladly take a coffee bath over getting keyed. Tim was sitting at a red light when he spotted something they don't tell you about in driving school. Someone was driving along with an inflatable pool on top of her car, holding it down with her hand. We all know this is not the proper way to secure a load. You're supposed to strap it down, then pull on the strap and say, "That ain't going anywhere." Clearly she hadn't done that, so the pool did go somewhere. As Tim passed her a short distance down the road, she had left her car to retrieve the pool. Tim just laughed as he kept driving. He noted that she could have easily deflated the pool and just transported it inside her vehicle. We try not to roast people too hard on Wham Baam Teslacam, but take a look at how she parked her car to go pick up the pool. Did she skip driving school altogether? Barb was on her way home after a meeting when the pickup in front of her lost its grill. Not the grill, the grill. Barb stopped and helped the pickup driver load it back into the bed. While the driver certainly hadn't secured the grill well enough, they'd at least been smart enough not to leave it connected to a propane tank during transport. This video reminds us of a very similar story we featured in the very first episode of Wham Baam Teslacam that we published 5 years ago. Black Thunder was driving his Model Y in a carpool lane during dense traffic when it started to rain. The traffic conditions didn't deter another driver from illegally exiting the carpool lane before flying past Black Thunder and rear-ending a white BMW. The other driver then spun out of control before slamming into a guardrail. Black Thunder immediately called 911 to report the collision. He told the emergency operator he had Teslacam footage of the incident, but they never reached out to him to get it. He's hoping the BMW driver will find his video here, and maybe it will help them understand what happened and be useful for their insurance claim. He also wanted to shout out his beautiful wife, Joanna. Romance is in the air. Speaking of things in the air, check out this video of a pickup getting some serious air. Or go check out the episode we mentioned earlier, the very first episode of Wham Baam Teslacam. Huge thanks to all this week's submitters. We'll see you with more videos next week.
Hope you're satisfied.